Okay, good afternoon, thank you. And it's a great pleasure to introduce Giovanni Manetti. So many of you will know Giovanni as winemaker and owner of Fontodi Estate in Panzano in Chianti Classico, one of the appellation's benchmark estates. In his more official role, Giovanni has been sitting on the board of the Chianti Classico Consorzio since 1992, and then went on to being elected vice president. And since 2018, he has been at the helm of the Consortio as president. So I'd like to give a warm welcome to Giovanni Manetti, and thank you again so much for taking time to be here with us today. And also I'd like to welcome the Consortio's UK ambassador and master sommelier, Daniel Stojcic. So I'm going to pass it over to you, to the Consortio, and thank you very much again.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome, and thank you very much for being here. It's such a great pleasure and honor to be with you talking about Chianti Classico and the new project, and so the present and the future of the appellation. I'm sure that you are very familiar with the area, but just to refresh your memory, Chianti Classico is an quite old appellation located in the heart of Tuscany, just in between Florence on the north and Siena on the south. And it's a very complex territory, very hilly, and with hundreds of combinations between natural factors. So, elevation and exposure, the soil composition. We have more than 10 different kinds of soil. The microclimates, the same. So that is the main reason why we started a long time ago, more than 40 years ago, to discuss about a project of subdivision. So to subdivide the territory in smaller areas, but with more homogeneity. At the beginning, it was just a small group of producers asking for that. We were called the revolutionary people, and we took a long time to convince everybody that was the right direction to follow. And only recently we have we approved the reformation, and the project is called UGA, Unità Geografiche Aggiuntive, Additional Geographical Unit, and we finally have the subdivision. And few days ago, on July 1st, we received the final authorization from the Minister of Agriculture, and we started immediately to label the new vintage of Gran Selezione with the name of the specific UGA where the grapes have been grown. The grapes used to make that wine have been grown. So it's a great result, a great joy. We are all very, very happy about that, and so it's a great reformation that we were able to introduce, and and I'm very happy today to have the chance to present you the new subdivision. So you have a map in front of you, and so those are the 11 different UGA micro areas. Starting from north, we have San Casciano, and then we have Montefiorale, Panzano, Lamola, and Greve. All of them, they belong to Greve Commune. So we decided to divide the Greve Commune in 4 different micro areas. And then we have San Donato in Poggio on the west side, and then Castellina, Radda in the middle. And then in the south, we subdivided the Castelnuovo Ardenga commune in 2 different micro areas. On the west side, Bagliagli, and on the east side, Castelnuovo Ardenga as well. So those are the 11 UGA that we decided to put in the list. The next. Yeah, so those are the criteria that we use to subdivide the territory. So we we analyzed not only the natural factors, but also the human factors. Because if we were looking for, a 100% perfect homogeneity, probably the list should be much, much longer with hundreds and hundreds of UGA. But we prefer to put together natural factors and human factors. And the combination of the two is, makes the real identity of a wine. We are aware that also the human factors play a very important role. Human factors like local tradition and how the producers, how the vintners, they shares their knowledge, they shares information. The spirit, the sense of community is also very, very important. History of the specific territories is also very important. And together with the elevation, the microclimate, the soil composition, they all together makes an identity. It's just the first step. So all of us, all the vintners, have to work even harder in the next future to reinforce and to have a much stronger and deeper identity. So it's just the first step. I think is a step in the right direction, and is a step in the direction of quality, because more and more I think that quality coincides with territoriality. That is what especially the new generation of wine lovers, they are asked more and more. They want to know more in depth the relationship between a wine and the specific territory that gave birth to that wine. When I participate to the tasting, to the walk around tasting, more and more people are asking me, what kind of soil do you have? Which is the elevation of your vineyard? What kind of microclimate do you have? And less people are asking me how many months in barrels. So that is an aspect of the production that is not so interesting, or no more. So everybody now are much more curious, much more interesting in trying to define and trying to analyze the wine that they are tasting, knowing more in depth, with more precision, the factors, the terroir flavors, the terroir characters. Why the acidity? Why do you have that kind of acidity? Where is coming from? The calcaire percentage in your soil or from your microclimate? It is just an example, but I think that more and more is the terroir characters really mark the wine, and they make a big difference. Also because the demand in the market is more and more for unique products. Wines with a stronger identity, and that cannot be replicated in another part of the world. And if we analyze all the production factors of a wine, with the only exception of the territory, all the other factors you can move from one place to another one. The variety, the vine growing methods, the winemaking methods, the barrels, the enologist consultant, they are all factors that you can move from one place to another one. The only one that you cannot move, and that can really make the difference, is the territory. So we should transfer more and more territory into the bottle. That is the idea behind this kind of reformation. And next, what we have. So just few numbers about the Chianti Classico. We have in total 7,000 hectares under vines. The total surface of the territory is 10 times bigger, larger, so 70,000. That means that the surface covered by vineyards grown as a vineyard is only 10%. Between 10 and 12% of all the territory. So there is absolutely no monocultural, but we have a lot of biodiversity. Just to give you an example, I give you another figure, the percentage of the surface covered by woods, by forest, is more than 60%. And another 10% is represented by olive groves. So we have a lot of, biodiversity, and that is very helpful, to have, healthier vines, and to also to face the global warming, because the forest makes the microclimate, a little bit cooler, and the forest has a good capability to maintain the humidity, and to maintain to keep the rain. And so we are quite well organized to also to face the climate change. We are scared for the future, but at the moment, we are able to make very high quality wines. In total, there are close to 500 different wineries. 342, they bottle directly their own wine. And the consortium is representing 96% of all the vintners of the territory. This is a very, very high percentage of representation. What we have next? Yeah. And just an overlook about the production pyramid. We have three different typologies of Chianti Classico that we make. The base of the pyramid is composed by Chianti Classico tout court, so the estate wine, and then in the middle of the pyramid we have Chianti Classico Riserva that has a longer aging, and one more year of aging, and also usually made with grapes coming from older vines. And then at the very top of the pyramid, we have the Gran Selezione. It is a new typology of Chianti Classico that has recently introduced back in 2014. And at the moment, it represents around 6% of the total production in terms of volume, of quantity. But more and more Gran Selezione are receiving, very good critics, very high scores. They are positioned in the wine list of very, very top restaurants all around the world. So there is, the appreciation, let's say, they are very well received by the consumers. And the total number of bottles of Gran Selezione right now that we produce is around 2 million of bottles. So it's quite a good number. And this number is growing every year. Also, the number of vintners that are making Gran Selezione is growing so fast. At the beginning, back in 2014, only 30 wineries that were making Gran Selezione. Now there are 164. So a lot, and this number is growing every year. And there are at this time there are more than 200 different labels. That means that some estates makes more than one Gran Selezione wine. They make 2 or 3. And a new trend is to make more Gran Selezione single vineyard. So we are trying to analyze our territory. Every single vineyard is making analysis of the soil composition, of the potential for quality of every single parcels, and more vineyards are deciding to make a single vineyard Gran Selezione with specific characters coming from a very specific kind of soil, or the age of the vines, or because they can really make a higher quality wine from that single parcel. But the direction and what we are looking for is territoriality, as I mentioned before. So we are all aware that we have to do our best to let express the territory, and trying to find into the wine more and more, the specific terroir characters of every single parcel, of every single estate. That is the goal for everybody. So less and less international taste and more sense of place, more and more terroir flavors, more and more specific terroir characters. That is, you know, what we are trying to do, the process that we are working right now. So I think it's a good moment for Chianti Classico. The demand for Chianti Classico wines is very good all around the world. Export is, you know, is very good. We export 80% of our product in more than 150 different countries. So, you know, it's we can say that it's a successful appellation, and also the interest in the Chianti Classico wine is growing every year. So we are very, you know, quite happy and satisfied about the situation, and we are also, you know, very happy to see that also the new generation of consumers, of wine lovers, are drinking Chianti Classico and are looking for Chianti Classico. So it's you know, it is another.
And yeah, Mr. Manetti, I was just gonna say, because obviously I've been to your estate a couple of times, and the importance that you have with the biodiversity and the natural viticulture practices. But I can see that almost throughout the whole region. And if you want to just touch on that, and just yeah, because I think it's over 50% of certified organic producers in the region, which is an amazing number. And I guess the trend goes up to even more and more wineries trying to convert and, yeah, just look after the planet, and the quality increases then, of course, also of the wines.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you for this question, because we are very proud to, you know, for the great commitment in respecting nature that is, you know, that is very evident in the Chianti Classico territory. I think the, how do you say, looking for quality, looking for higher quality, and looking for, you know, to have, you know, more territoriality into the wines is combined with sustainability or with organic methods. Because if I want to transfer more territory into the bottle, first of all, I have to be more respectful with Mother Nature. No? I have to reduce the interfering into my approach in the vineyard. So that is very, very important. And the organic grown vineyards is growing every year. We are between 50 and 60%. And the surface of vineyards grown with organic methods is growing every year. We just received a very good news that a couple of big players in the Chianti Classico, they started to convert their vineyard to organic. So that will probably represent in the next season a big increase in the percentage of organic. So we are all very, very happy. And but even who is not yet organic is committed to reduce as much as possible the use of chemical products. So everybody has the same, you know, goal, the same philosophy to be as much as possible sustainable. And I think there is an immediate effect, positive effect in the quality of the wines. There is more purity. There is more sense of place. There is more, you know, territoriality. So quality and sustainability, you know, they are linked together. There is a great relationship between the two. And I think I'm talking about Italy, but we can say that Chianti Classico is one of the, you know, large appellation with very high. I don't know if it is the highest or not, but it's with one of among the you know, the first group. So the appellation with a very high percentage of organic, and you know, that makes me very happy and proud.
Wonderful. Yeah, no, I remember when I was back in April at your estate, and even how you use your Chianina cows in part of the sustainable practices. It was great to see that nothing gets wasted.
You know, that is a part of circular agriculture, you know, so the self-sufficiency, that is also one of the main principles of biodynamic, you know, or the traditional, the historical, you know, agriculture. In Italy, before the 50s, all the farms used to have, you know, cows to make manure and to make a compost and to be self-sufficient in terms of fertilization. I think that reducing the external inputs and maximizing the internal resources makes more evident the terroir characters, the terroir flavors. You know, so it's something else to make more to improve the uniqueness of the wine that you are making.
Absolutely.
But also biodiversity is very important. Think about this. Try to imagine a vineyard or your farm or your place as a box. If the box is full of different organisms of different size or different species, and there is no empty space in the box, if an enemy is trying to get in the box and trying to colonize the box, it's impossible, you know. So if we want to defend much better our vineyards or our territory against the attacks of fungus, bacteria, of insects, the biodiversity is so important. So a rich biodiversity of your environment, of your box, is so important and very, very is necessary to avoid, you know, colonization of enemies. That is the idea. Simplifying a lot. I'm so sorry if I'm you know, simplifying so much, but just to give you an example, I give you an idea of how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I see that often when I speak with clients and guests here, that it's more and more important. Like you said earlier, people don't ask about how much oak do you use. It's more, is it organic? Is it biodynamic farmed? It becomes more and more even important in terms of the consumer choices, what they go for. And when you have such a high representation of the region going organic and more even uncertified organic, that just then helps to sell easier than all these oak or no oak questions. Yeah. That people maybe in the past were more focused on, and more the production method in that sense, rather than the sustainability. And it's a trend that goes in any products nowadays. You see, it's how sustainable and healthy are you as a company, as a brand, and that's with our region is quite in the forefront, I think, in terms of winemaking.
But it's very, very nice to see how looking for you know, higher quality is let's say combined to let's say saving the planet or protecting nature or you know, being sustainable. So the two things are connected. They are going in the same direction, and that is, you know, it is very nice and very interesting to see that we can be more sustainable and even to make, you know, better quality wine in the same time. That's it's great. You know, it's great to see.
Definitely.
Yeah, but there is another very important reformation that we introduced together with the UGA. That is the change of the blend for the Gran Selezione. That is another very important step. That is signing a direction. The new blend for Gran Selezione is composed by a higher percentage of Sangiovese, that is moving from 80% minimum to 90%. So there is an increase of the Sangiovese percentage in the blend. we left a little space, 0 to 10% for red native varieties, typical of Chianti Classico. There is a list of traditional varieties, all red, and the list is composed by Canaiolo and Colorino, Malvasia Nera, and Sanforte, and Fogliatonda, and Mammolo, but all of them with a very long relationship with the Chianti Classico region. And big news is that we stopped the use, so we took out from the blend the international varieties. So no more Merlot, no more Cabernet, no more Syrah to make a Chianti Classico Gran Selezione. And that is something that will give us more purity, I think will enhance the territoriality, the terroir flavors. The Gran Selezione will be, as I say, more different from the other two typologies like Riserva or Chianti Classico. But this change of the blend also will trace a direction for the future for everybody. So I'm very positive, and you know, the very large majority of our producers, of the members of the consortium, more than 90%, 95% voted this reformation. So, you know, everybody, almost everybody agree that that is the way, that is the future for Chianti Classico. And, you know, so two big reforms: the introduction of UGA, additional geographical units, and also the change of the blend for the Chianti Classico Gran Selezione.
And at the moment, it's still up to the wineries. If they want to make a Gran Selezione, they can still make it with less than 90%, but from 2027, it must be minimum 90% Sangiovese.
Yeah, that is not our choice, but is a national law that everybody, all the appellations in Italy, when they change the blend, the vintners, the winemakers, they have a certain time to adapt their vineyards, right? So it's not our choice. It's something that has been you know, imposed by the Minister of Agriculture, and that is for everybody, all the appellations in Italy. When they change the blend, there is a 5 years time to, you know, to adapt the vineyards and to adapt the blend of their own wines.
And yeah, from a consumer's point of view, again, I think it's gonna be making things easier to understand if you have only 10% variation in terms of varietals, where you know it's gonna be mostly Sangiovese dominant, and to have that, yeah.
That is also, sorry, Daniel, but that is also why, one of the reasons why we decided to start the introduction of the UGA from the Gran Selezione, because changing the blend of the Gran Selezione, going to, you know, more purity, without Cabernet, without Merlot, without Syrah, I think the differences between the specific UGA will be more evident. So a Chianti Classico Gran Selezione from Radda is so different. It's very different from a Chianti Classico Gran Selezione made in Castelnuovo Ardenga or in San Casciano, you know, and because they are different characters. In some areas, the wines are very elegant and very fine. In some other areas, the wines are richer and with a bigger structure and with a deeper color, you know. So it's up to the consumers to decide what they want to drink, what they want to buy, and so it is I think it should be an advantage for all the consumers, you know, to know more in depth, more precisely where that wine has been made in terms of you know, location of the vineyard. So think to be in a restaurant, you open the wine list, and if you see the list of Chianti Classico, Gran Selezione, and there is a group from Panzano, another group from Radda, another group from Castellina. You can choose. You can choose the wine that you like in that moment, or to combine with the food that you are having. So
and that's what I have here at one of our restaurants here on the list. We have just like you said, based on villages or UGAs, and often find it most guests, as they are very knowledgeable on, let's say, Burgundy, you just almost give them a analogy of how you would have it described, let's say, in the Côte de Nuit, when you have village after village. And the same then now with the Chianti Classico, and guests and more then understand the nuances and differences between then certain villages, and then they know which style they like, or which village they prefer over another one. And over the years, I think this will get more and more easier to understand also for as more and more people get super knowledgeable on wines. We have lots of guests here that we do in-house wine trainings with them. And overall, you can tell it's people are very dedicated in learning more. And having those little separations of villages or UGAs, really, it makes me always happy and smile when I see them that the guests, they also start to understand the differences between, let's say, Rada and Gaiola, let's say.
We decided to start from the Gran Selezione, but I think that in 3 years time, 4 years time, 5 years time, I don't know precisely because we are still discussing, but probably the indication of the UGA will appear also in the other typologies. When I'm talking about Chianti Classico Riserva, for instance, or even the Chianti Classico regular. It will take a little bit more time because not everybody are convinced that to extend the use of the UGA to the other two typologies. But I think that it's probably it's only a question of time, and I don't know when, but sometimes we in a middle term, we probably will see we will see also the indication of UGA in the other typologies.
Perfect. Yeah. Also, this year you've mentioned earlier before the interview started that it's been quite a hot year, and we've seen over the last week all these heat waves throughout Europe, and so I guess you're also affected by that.
Yeah, the springtime was cooler than usual, and we had more rain, so very different from last year. So the springtime was cooler and more wet. Then at the end of June, precisely in the June 21st, the date of change of the season, passing from spring to summer, we had a huge increase of the temperatures, and we faced some problems in managing the canopy because there was an explosion with such a good amount of rain into the soil. And when the heat came, the vegetation exploded. So a lot of extra work in managing the canopy. And we faced also some mildew, but it's very common this year. From Sicily to Bordeaux, there were mildew attack. We were quite able to defend our fruit from the mildew attack. We think probably to have lost something like between 10 and 20% on comparing in comparison with a normal vintage. But usually the mildew causes just a reduction of the quantity, is not influencing the quality, the final quality. So we are still able to make a great wine. I'm sure of that. Now it's quite hot, but not so hot, so not one of the hottest, year. Today is around 30. In the last few days, I'm talking about Chianti Classico and not Florence. Florence is much hotter than Chianti Classico, but in Chianti Classico, the maximum temperature was between 32 and 33, something like that. So not exceptional, last year was hotter than this year. So a lot of work. We are very, tired, exhausted, because we had to work much harder in the vineyard. But I'm positive for the rest of the season, of the growing season, and I'm sure that we still have a great potential to make a very, very good wine. But I'm saying that crossing my fingers.
Yeah.
Because we are just in the middle, so.
Obviously, throughout the years, the harvest dates have changed as well for you. So you're picking earlier than before, or?
Yeah, not every year, depending on the vintage. This year, because the springtime was cooler and more wet, we had a delay of almost 10 days. So expecting to pick the grapes quite, later than in the last few years. But with the reduction of the quantity, probably there will be an acceleration. So we are estimating to start the harvest around September 20 as usual. So not too early or not too late, almost in a usual time. Something, but it depends on what we are, what we're gonna have in terms of weather in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
But for instance, at the moment, no change of the color, so no Verazon, no Verazon yet. I know that Verazon started in other wine regions in Tuscany, but not in Chianti Classico at all. So it is a good sign. So we are not, it's not too early.
Yeah. I think based on the slides, you've covered everything that we've had here. But maybe we should answer some questions.
Please.
Yeah. The first one was sent out by Charles, asking about, apart from olive groves and the forestry, what else is grown in the Chianti Classico region?
The two main cultivation is vine and olive, of course. Along the river in the lower altitude, there is still a little bit of cereals or hay, something like that. But it's very, very small part of the region. Consider that the forest is around 60, between 60 and 65. The vineyards is 13%. The olive groves around 10. So there are also the villages, so the constructions or the road or parking or something like that. So the other cultivations covers a very, very small percentage of the territory.
Yeah. And do you think you'll ever then start to take over these other cultivational sites to grow more grapes, or do you think will there be a limit at some stage of how much can or should be grown in the region?
No, we cannot increase the surface on the vines, so we have very strict rules, and also we decided, because every 3 years they ask if to every consortium if they want to expand a little bit the surface on the vines, but in the last 20 years we decided to don't increase the surface on the vines, to maintain a good balance, a good equilibrium between demand and production, and that is the right decision, I think. But also in terms of yield, so quantity that is really produced, in our territory, the yield is very low. And so even if we can produce 52 hectoliter per hectare, the real production in the last 10 years is around 40 something, so yeah, I think it's one of the lowest in Italy regarding the red wine appellation. And that is also a sign that everybody are looking for quality, so sacrificing some quantity to enhance to have a better quality. So it's another good sign, of the commitment to quality that is common to everybody.
Yeah, it's not about being greedy and wanting to grow more and more. It's improving the quality. And here I see
Daniel,
Yes.
may I jump in? Because Charles
Yes.
actually had a second question as well. So while we're on to Charles, would you like to unmute? Often what we do, Daniel, is we allow the person to unmute and come in.
brilliant,
So
even
yeah.
better.
Thank you.
Giovanni, with the increased focus on territory, on Italian native grapes, is there any kind of idea that maybe the use of oak might be slightly lessened? Because oak still seems to be one of the factors that very much influences flavor of top wines, including Chianti Classico.
What we are seeing is that there is a change of the approach in everyone, and almost everybody are going back to larger size, larger cask, and the use of small barrels is reducing. Also in terms of quality of the oak, everybody are looking for very fine grain and the lower and lower toast to don't influence with chocolate and mocha flavors that the wines that we are producing. So also in terms of winemaking, work in the cellar, we are changing and we are trying to make finer wine with a better balance and not covered by the oak flavors. That is another positive trend, and we can see an evolution, a positive evolution in everybody, because again, if you want to let express the territory, you should be very careful with the oak treatment, and so the two things go together. But thank you for your question.
Thank you for the answer.
So Michelle also had a number of questions. Michelle, would you like to ask your questions about old vines and then also about the soils and subsoils?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes. My first question was, I was going back to that slide that you had with the, what creates the characteristics. Under the natural factors, you have the aspect, the altitude, the varietal and the climate, but you don't have, the soils. So is that in one of those 4 titles? Because I mean, I would think that the soils of the Chianti Classico, they vary so much between areas that is such an important aspect to highlight when you're talking about it.
Yeah, you're totally right. I agree with you. Soil composition plays a very important role. We have more than 10 different soil types in the Chianti Classico. The main ones are the macigno, the sandstone soil, that is mostly present along the mountain ridge. So on the eastern side of the Chianti Classico territory, there is like a chain, like a ridge of mountains that is called Monti del Chianti, and that is mostly composed by macigno. Think about the wines made in Lamole or the eastern part of Radda or the eastern part of Gaiole. They're all, the vineyards are all on macigno sandstone soil. That makes a very elegant wine with a lighter color, but with a good crispiness in the fruit and a lot of freshness and very fine tannins. more in the center of the area, there are mostly three different kinds of soil. One of it is the alberese, that is the white stone with a lot of very high calcaire content that provides a good acidity and length and depth of the wine. The other main soil of that area, of the central area, is the schist, that is usually called galestro, but is a clay schist that makes more, darker fruit, darker cherries on the nose, a good volume in the mid palate, and a little bit more spiciness and richness of the wine. There is another very specific soil called pietraforte that is belongs to the group of sandstone, but is very different from the macigno because of the calcaire content that is so high. So it's something in between the macigno and the alberese. So makes depth and great acidity like alberese, but fine tannins like macigno. And I can continue. We have.
No, I don't want to take up all your time. Or
no, I don't. But those three are the most common.
Yeah. So obviously the soils.
Sorry. But on the south border, we have marine deposit. On the western border, we have lacustrine and fluvial deposit. But believe me, Michelle, all those different type of soil are all, all very good for making a high quality Chianti Classico with different characters, providing different flavors, but all of them, well suited to make a good Chianti Classico.
Absolutely, that's why I was a bit surprised that it wasn't listed. Soils under the specific characteristics that make the area. But I'm glad that you gave us that explanation because I think it's so important. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
My second question was with regard to the old vines. Do you have an overall knowledge of the number of old vines? That means vines older than 35 years of age that you might have of Sangiovese in the territory. And do you consider this of important genetic value to the Chianti Classico?
Absolutely. And I don't have a precise number, but I suppose it's around 20%, 25%. And but one of the goals for everybody is to allow a longer life to our vineyards. That should be a goal for everybody, because older vines not only makes a better quality in terms of depth, of complexity of the wine, but older vines are also more capable to resist and to face, the climate change, for instance, the extreme weather conditions. When it's very rainy or very hot and dry, the old vines resist much better than a younger vine. So the idea that every 30 years you have to replant a vineyard is so wrong. It's so wrong. It's something belonging to the past. It's an old idea. I think for the future, everybody will have to work to allow, the vines, healthier conditions and to allow them to live for a longer time. That should be a very important goal for everybody.
Thank you very much. That answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. That's great. Robin had some questions about the composition of Gran Sezione. Robin, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question of Giovanni and Daniel? There he is. You're muted still.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. I just have some questions about the actual labeling. So as I understand it, the Gran Selezione can include your UGA and specific vineyard name. In terms of the reserva, you can just include the vineyard name, but the UGAs don't apply to the reserva category, right? If that's understood.
I think he's checking with Katerina.
Yes, no, because your voice was not so clear in my computer. Sorry, not yet. So at the moment, only the UGA will appear on the label only for the Gran Selezione. We are still, discussing, talking each other among the producers about expanding the use of Gran Selezione in the other two typologies. Probably the next will be Chianti Classico Riserva, but I cannot say when, because I don't know when. But in my opinion, that will be the next step. But only when a large majority of the producers will decide to do that, we will do that, because we are in democracy, and a consortium is an association composed by 500 members. So we have to reach a large majority to introduce another reformation, another step, the next step of the reformation.
Giovanni, am I correct in saying that the reserva category can include a vineyard name?
Yeah, the Chianti Classico Riserva, could have the vineyard name. So you can make a Chianti Classico Riserva single vineyard, absolutely. But not yet the indication of UGA.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. You're right.
Great question. Thank you. Neil, the slow wine guide, I know you have a vested interest in that. Would you like to ask your question, Neil?
Sure. What percentage of the Chianti Classico producers are in the slow wine guide?
Caterina made the calculation and checked, and is telling me that in the last edition, so in the current edition, 2023, 27 aziende. Okay, 27. So 9 chiocciole and 14 slow wine, and 4 wines, le bottiglie. So 27 total.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. I think, Mark, you had a question, but I believe it was just answered by Robin's question. Would you?
Yes,
like to
that's
come on?
exactly right. Thanks for the clarification. I just want to say, Giovanni and Daniel, it's been a really, really informative presentation. And what, for me, I'm taking most out of it is this link between sustainability and being able to express territoriality and increase quality. So that's a very important message you've got through today. So thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for participating to this meeting.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mark. That's fantastic. I'm just so thrilled by that. Angela had a question as well, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was our last question. So I think it'll take us to the end. Would you like to unmute, Angela?
Okay. Yes. Giovanni, you spoke about daytime temperatures in summer, perhaps going up to 33. Do you get a large drop at nighttime to help keep the freshness in the grapes?
Yeah. Yeah, that is another, quite common character of our territory. So the difference in temperature between day and night. This time of the year, I'm talking about yesterday, for instance, we reached 33 as a maximum temperature. At night was below 20. But the difference in temperature is very important in the last month. That is the crucial month for quality. I'm talking about September. between the end of August and the beginning of September, and the start of the harvest time, end of September. And at that time is quite, quite frequent to see also, more than 20 degrees of temperature difference between day and night. For instance, sometimes I'm talking about September, mid-September, we can have 30 degrees during the day and 10 at night. And that is something magic to have a complete, ripening of the Sangiovese grapes, keeping the acidity and keeping the freshness. It's a gift that we have. Not every year we have that situation, but it's quite frequent, and it's a part of the, how do you say, the is a part of the potential for quality of Chianti Classico territory. So it's something very distinctive of our territory because of the elevation, because of the morphology of the territory, because of the climatic conditions. But they're all, let me say, they're all, ideal conditions for high quality wines everywhere in Chianti Classico, from north to south, from San Casciano to Castelnuovo Ardenga. Everywhere you can find a great Chianti Classico wine.
Thank you. I'm very, very pleased to hear that, because I associate freshness and acidity very much with a quality Chianti Classico.
And also the calcaire plays a very important role to maintain the acidity. In many areas of Chianti Classico, the calcaire content in the soil is very high, and that is it provides acidity. So that is another very important factor to maintain and to keep the acidity into the wine. Not only the microclimate, but also the soil composition and the percentage of calcaire into the soil.
Thank you.
Truly fantastic. Thank you. Michelle, would you like to?
So thank you very much, Giovanni. That was really interesting discussion and update on the news and innovation and the steps taken by the Consorzio. Obviously some quite monumental reforms with the UGA and the blend of the Chianti Classico Selezione, and certainly a great focus on the territory and quality. And also thank you, Daniel Stojcic, for those who weren't here when we started, his Master Sommelier and UK Ambassador to the Consorzio Chianti Classico. So I'd like to thank you and like to thank everybody for joining us today.